on time. 9 o'clock. Well, for me, for us anyway.
Yes.
Yep. Close enough. 7:01.
Okay, so are we in a place to get started?
Yeah, I think we are.
Okay. Becky, you
And
want to do your magic with the slide for announcements? Thank you. Alrighty, a couple of announcements before we get started tonight. Blair has a couple of books if you want to go deeper on any of the things that we're talking about. Ultimate Mind Hacking and Phobia Freedom Formula. He has a new updating book coming up soon on the ultimate mind hacking. So stay tuned for that. You can join us in this Blair Dunkley experience with the link that's on the slide. And we are here every Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Mountain and 9 p.m. Eastern. So with that, I want to welcome you to the 383rd episode of the Blair Dunkley Experience, our mind model community where we discuss mind models. Mind models are a collection of extensively tested thought frameworks, skills, and behaviors that enable people to transform their lives intentionally. They were researched and tested for 17 plus years. Mind models are consistently proven to work 80% of the time. Mind model definitions are behavioral and not academic. They are process-based, and for this reason, we lean into the experiential piece. Regardless of how long you work with mind models, there's always more depth to explore. Even Blair experiences this with his own work after 50 years. Your host this evening is Blair Dunkley, the creator of Mind Models. My name is Patty. I'm a certified Mind Model Method coach and your co-host tonight, along with certified Mind Model Method coaches Tim and Becky Graff and Colin Jewett. The BDE is Blair's free gift to you and is an opportunity to learn, experience, and practice mind models in a safe, real-world environment. Personally, my models helped me overcome more than a decade of depression. They've positively impacted every area of my life, including my relationship with myself. So we look forward to welcome you to the BDE. With that, I'm just going to give you a little summary. In January and early February, we covered success habits for 5 weeks, and then we moved into passion and purpose and finding your uniqueness. Now, building on these sessions, we're going to shift focus on the self-alignment process beginning tonight with self-awareness. So if you're interested in any of these past series, Success Habits begins with episode 376. So we made a promise to you last week with homework to cover in leftovers. So, Leslie, what did you discover last week with names and labels?
Well, actually, I found I was doing it more. Naming and labeling things was um, not a quick concept to understand at first
That's
uh,
interesting.
from previous sessions, right?
Okay.
But, I've gotten better at naming and labeling my emotions,
Okay.
and, and just saying them to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And
So do you notice a difference in your names and labels personally versus professionally?
um, hadn't thought of it separate because for me, they both run constant together all the time.
Okay. How about labels or names that other people have applied to you? Have you noticed any of those in the past week?
Uh, just remembering the, again, what we talked about last week about PTSD and
Oh.
how I had been labeled and used that as a crutch for a long time. And
Mm-hmm.
um, now I don't, having helped to resolve that issue.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Blair.
you're welcome.
Um, I find that No, it's no longer something hanging over me.
That's really exciting to hear.
Yeah,
That that can be a very daunting label.
it was for a long time.
Hmm.
And certainly what contributed to a negative spiral
Hmm.
at, at different times. So
Great.
getting
Well,
away.
well done, you, Leslie. Well done.
Yep. Hey, Leslie, if you think back during that time, because you just reminded me of our initial work together and how that um I didn't get you into describing feelings directly, but naming and labeling stuff. I didn't teach you naming and labeling. I may have or may not have. It was a fairly long time ago now. But it was something that I did get you to utilize indirectly by asking you, so how are you now? And what are you noticing? And what would you call that? What is that? You know, and I remember saying things like that to you back then, just so that you would identify things. So how would you identify it? What would you call it? And then you called it different names, and then I go, let's check that out. And so it's just testing the naming and labeling that you did sort of subconsciously. And all of a sudden you started realizing um, it wasn't as true as it was. And correct me if I'm wrong. It's your story. I apologize. I should have had you tell your story.
No, that's fine. Another thing that happened along the way, um, and through was learning the difference between reliving and remembering.
Oh yeah, big, big one. That one I do remember teaching you and giving you the name of, well, the name of that one and going back, doing that. That was huge.
That was huge.
Yeah, big
Uh,
deal.
I remember one of our other ladies that joined us for quite a while experienced the same, excuse me, was experienced the same about um, reliving and remembering.
Yep.
And um, I remember her talking about it and in one of these Tuesday night sessions, and it really hit home. It really emphasized the concept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I was working with a person this morning, um, and it was fascinating. I frequently ask people, like this goes into size of somebody's now and a bunch of other mind models, but needless to say, it also goes into naming and labeling. But it also goes into past, present, and future. And when we perceive, most people say we can't change our past. And that's true. We can't. That's 100% accurate, 100% always. But then I ask, can you change your future? And I'd say almost 60% of the people out there are saying, yeah, I can. I wouldn't even say that it's 50-50. I'd say it's more than 50%. And then I ask them to change themselves in the present. Like, can you change the future right now, please? And literally, and she just sat there and said, it's done. But if the future is changed, there needs to be an externally verifiable thing, something that I can see that's different. But all that you said is, yeah, it's done. Well, I didn't see anything change. I can't verify it. Show me anybody who can take a picture of what changed in the future and bring it back to me. If you can change the future. Well, I can't do that. And that's like recognizing what we can control and what we can't. is like reliving and remembering. And we can remember just fine, but we don't have to relive. And we can't change the future, but we can change how we process the past now. And that's so powerful. Anyway, that's my story. Sorry, I stole your limelight again and told you guys my story of what happened to me earlier today in the area of naming and labeling. And all while I was doing that, I was thinking, hey, that would be great for tonight. This is like real world shit right now. So anyway,
So, do you want to share, Blair, what names and labels personally and professionally came up for you this past week?
well, I thought I just did. So
Okay, I thought you were talking more about Leslie's experience
yeah, I was, but I was
and
also
things in
talking about my
general.
experience with my person of interest earlier
Oh, okay.
today. And
Okay.
so all of that came down to how effective it has been for naming and labeling mind models over the years, over the last 50 so years, that it's really adds clarity and speed to things.
Yes,
So,
it really does.
yeah.
So, I'd like to hear from one more person on the homework. Is anybody like itching so
Well, I
badly?
do want to point out that Shannon just came on, so maybe she's itching. I don't know, but she just turned on her camera. Sorry, you're getting picked on.
I'm always here for it.
Okay.
If anyone else would like to share, I'm totally okay with that. But I did have an interesting reflection from the week. So I
Well, we'd
was,
like to hear it. So, go for it.
yeah, I was cleaning out my office this week, going through some old files, and I found some old employee reviews. And I was like, literally, this couldn't be more perfect for the conversation that we're having tonight in terms of like professional. And I remember I was in the same position for a couple of years, and I had one particular supervisor who used one set of names and labels for me. Great reviews, great experience. And then that person shifted to a different job, and I got a new supervisor, totally different set of names and labels. I'm doing the same job, I'm the same. And her ranking of me and her description of me went down, and I had done the same job for the same number of years, and nothing I did was changed. But this person, had a different opinion than the supervisor I'd had for years. And so it was a really interesting moment to look back, because I didn't have the tools at the time that I have now. But I can see this is a case of, perspective. I have externally verifiable data that my performance has been satisfactory, and above satisfactory. And I have all of these descriptive words that I felt aligned with me really well for many years. And nothing changes except someone else comes in and had a totally different way of looking at things. And it required at the time too that I speak up to HR, and they did their own review and were like, we've known you for years, everything's fine. But it's a really interesting moment for looking at yourself. Like, and I remember feeling at the time a little bit emotionally tanked and pulled into a Y hole, just based on, wait a second, that sensation of being misunderstood, and then you're worried, and all the different things that are going on. And tracking that into the work situation that I have now and what I know about myself, it was an interesting comparison, between self names and labels and someone else's. And that, the job and the performance and things can all be steady and the same, and someone else, and it was interesting to note over time how that particular position played out for that person, because they weren't as effective at it as the previous person I had as a supervisor. So yeah, really, really interesting. And the thing that I've taken to doing now with the job that I have is if I have someone, maybe it's a client or a coworker, say something positive, I'll write it on the lesson plan that I was teaching that day. And so when I'm going through old lesson plans trying to decide what to teach for the week, I find those words very affirming, but I still am responsible in the present moment to deliver, something quality that shows my own iterating going forward. So it's a balance. Teaching is a balance of being satisfied with myself and self-evaluating. Did I find my own performance effective? And did my clients find the class and my performance effective? And so I keep the words, the nice, feedback words that people give me, and I write those down. And thinking about this exercise, I don't really write down when I'm doing a self-evaluation. It's more mental, and it's usually more focused on the ineffective things. Whereas when a client says something to me, it's usually more focused on the positive things. So I found that interesting.
Well, thank you. So we're going to shift into our new topic. We have a new series. I told you, the self-alignment series, and tonight is more on self-awareness. So Blair, would you like to put the video up?
Absolutely. Thank you. I personally really quite like this video here. So just going to optimize for sound and for video and share this. And I think we're good to go.
You ever feel like you're just spinning your wheels with all the self-help stuff out there? I mean, you read the books, you try all the techniques, but nothing really seems to stick. Well, you are definitely not alone. And here's the thing. The problem probably isn't you, it's the advice. So today we're going to explore a totally different path, one that actually leads to real lasting change. It's the million-dollar question, isn't it? We put in the work, we listen to the podcasts, we try so hard to shift our mindset, but that big change we're looking for just always feels out of reach. Here's the good news. It's not about your effort. The advice most of us get is just focused on the completely wrong thing. Okay, check this out. This might actually blow your mind. The data shows that focusing on mindset work all by itself has a 1% effectiveness rate. 1! Now look at the other bar. Learning actual, actionable life skills has an 80% effectiveness rate. That's not a gap, that's a canyon. And it is the absolute key to unlocking real, meaningful change. So, how do we get in on that 80%, right? It's not about just thinking positive thoughts or chanting affirmations in the mirror. It's about getting your hands on a practical toolkit for action, a real system that's designed to turn those fuzzy ideas into concrete, tangible results. Now, at the very heart of this toolkit are something called mind models. And no, these are not just some vague, fluffy concepts. We're talking about frameworks and behaviors that have been tested a lot. And you see that word right there? Intentionally. That's the whole point. This is about giving you the actual tools to consciously and deliberately create the life you want. What makes these mind models so incredibly powerful comes down to these three things. They're identifiable, repeatable, and duplicatable. So what does that actually mean? It means they're real processes, not just wishful thinking. You can pinpoint the exact steps, you can use them again and again and again, and you can even teach them to other people. It's a system, not some big secret. Okay, so what's the whole point of using this toolkit? What's the end game? Well, it's to reach a state called self-alignment, and it's an amazing concept. It's all about learning how to finally intentionally cooperate with yourself instead of constantly fighting against your own progress. Sound good? Let's just break that down a bit. Self-alignment is the process of intentionally agreeing with yourself. Think about that. No more self-sabotage, no more one step forward, two steps back. It's about making sure your thoughts, your intentions, and most importantly, your actions are all pointing in the exact same direction, forward. And the benefits here are just profound. This isn't just about smashing your goals. It's a deeply restorative process. You know, when you're truly aligned, you can handle fear and stress in a totally different way. It's like turning on a spotlight that shows you exactly what's been holding you stuck, so you can finally do something about it. So, how does this actually work in the real world? Well, let's get into it. The easiest way is to think of mind models as your own personal mental cheat sheet, a simple, repeatable guide for your brain. Honestly, this is the best analogy. You know how businesses use standard operating procedures, or SOPs, to make sure they get consistent, effective results every time? Well, mind models do the exact same thing, but for your thinking and your behavior. They're basically step-by-step instruction manuals for navigating life. So one of the most important tools is called the 3 E's. This is your go-to cheat sheet for looking at yourself objectively. So instead of asking, am I a good person? Am I a bad person? You ask these questions. 1. Is my behavior effective or ineffective? 2. Is the proof for that external and observable, or is it just a feeling I have? And 3. Am I making an evaluation based on data or a judgment based on my feelings? Just making that shift, it changes everything. And then you've got the I-Bear model. This is your simple framework for taking action. It's super straightforward. You start with an intention. What do I want to happen? Then you test a specific behavior. Then you evaluate the data you got from doing that thing. And finally, you look at the measurable result. See, it's just a simple loop that turns every single thing you do into a chance to learn something. Okay, all of these tools, this entire way of thinking, it's all built on one core principle that completely flips conventional self-help on its head. It's not about thinking your way to a new life. It's about acting your way there. This right here, this is the main takeaway. Let it sink in. We always think we have to believe something first before we can do it. But the truth is, our actions shape our beliefs. When you start behaving like the person you want to be, your beliefs about who you are and what you're capable of, they have no choice but to catch up. And listen, the power of this behavioral approach isn't just a nice theory. Look at this story. In the face of something absolutely unimaginable, these tools provided a concrete path forward. They didn't make the pain disappear, of course not, but they provided the skills to navigate it, to build resilience, and to just keep going. Or how about this story? After more than a decade struggling with depression, a situation where mindset work probably failed over and over, this skills-based behavioral approach is what finally created a breakthrough. It just goes to show you how these tools can be used to rebuild your entire life, starting with the most important relationship you'll ever have, the one with yourself. So we have to end with this question for you. If what you do is what truly shapes what you believe, then change isn't some destination way off in the future. It's a choice you can make right now, this very second. So what one small, testable behavior will you choose today to start building the life and the belief you really want for yourself?
So, um, what worked about that? We're doing self-alignment. So that's what this is all about. Um, Actually, I'm gonna, Mirabai, do you mind if I pick on you?
Oh, go ahead.
Great. So what is that one small thing that you could start working to increase self-alignment?
I think speaking up when something isn't working for me instead of overlooking it and just trying to exit stage left.
Right? Okay. And what would happen if you did that with any level of consistency and not exited stage left, as you put it?
Well, I can't say for sure, but one of the possible scenarios is I might get pushback from the people that I'm communicating with,
You might.
especially if it's somebody who's used to being able to kind of bulldoze over. But
Absolutely true.
I
Go
might
ahead.
get my way. I might actually get heard and have my needs met more consistently if people knew what they were.
What makes it more probable for you to get your needs met?
Well, if I don't tell people what my needs are, I'm probably really definitely not going to get my needs met. So that's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. So the only way to increase the odds is to start sharing the information with the class.
Okay. Well, that works. Okay. Who else would like to
I
go?
was going to say, Blair, for time's sake, Colin had an interesting experiment to run through.
Yes,
Would this
sorry,
be the
you're
moment to
right.
do that?
I'm hunting for my notes, if you can't tell. So,
Yes,
and
no
I
worries.
misplaced them on my
So let's
computer.
let's
Everything.
turn it over to Colin now, and then you can have a little more time to look.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate you saving my ass there.
I was just gonna let you keep going, Blair. It's all
Oh, Jesus. Thanks, Colin. At least Patty's got the decency to interrupt me. Okay,
all
go
right,
for it.
folks. Here, I'll jump in. So naming and labeling is a nice segue here. I'm gonna throw out a couple names and labels. Head and heart. So I've got a question for the group, and by a show of nods, can anyone think of a time when your head and your heart wanted different things? I've got a nod from Shannon, nod from Tim. Anyone else? A little bit of a nod from Leslie. Okay, Blair. Yep. All right. I'm seeing nods all around. Shannon, I think you were the first nod. You don't need to tell us a time, but I want to ask you a question about that if it's all right. Would you mind sharing what that felt like for you to have your head and your heart wanting different things?
So incredibly stressful.
Okay, stressful.
It almost like undermines, like it felt a little bit like I should know better than this.
Hmm.
Like dips into the judgment really, really quickly.
Hmm.
Like that that's the path it went down very quickly. And it's very polarizing inside. It feels very tumultuous and a lot of internal conflict. It's not peaceful in your mind at all.
Hmm. Polarizing, tumultuous conflict. All right. Tim, I think I saw you nod next. Would you care to share what that felt like for you?
Yeah, very similar to what Shannon just described. The words that came up for me was like an overwhelming sensation
Hmm.
of confusion. Heart wants one thing, the head wants another, and it's like this pressure that kept building. And you almost feel split in half is how I would best describe it. And feel really stuck
Mm-hmm.
because there's not really a direction. Like you just feel torn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are coming up with much more descriptive words than I had in mind. This is great. Like, wow, tumultuous, torn. Wow, so descriptive. Anyone else care to share what that felt like for you? I know for me personally, the words that I came up with, like I felt tension. There's this tension. It's like this pull. And I think both shared something along the lines of pulling in different directions. For me also, I felt like frustration. I think Tim, when you said stuck, I resonate with that. This like I can't move from this place, and I get this frustration or anger, helplessness, anxiety. I think even depression can, when your head and your heart are pulling different directions, it can feel that way as well. The kind of hopelessness of, well, I can't move anywhere. I'm just trapped between these polar forces pulling in different directions. So you may have felt tension like this between competing goals and priorities or desires. You might feel it between different roles in your life. Oftentimes, especially in my work, I hear people describe the tension they feel between their home self and their work self. It's another tension that often exists. Expectations versus reality. It's always a tension there. Or past, present, and future. Blair mentioned those different, and the remembering versus reliving can be tension between simulations, past, future, present. And all of these tensions can show up in the body as physical feelings. And I think we started to already tap into that. The feelings that you, Tim and Shannon described and that I was describing, they often have this physical component. And so what I wanted to do is lead a quick experience to start this off, since it is the Blair Dunkley experience. I wanted to give us a little bit of an experience so we can start to name and label and identify misalignment when it happens. So then we can notice the difference between misalignment as we experience it and alignment. Like, how do those feel different? So, if you'd like to participate in this exercise, what I'll have you do is you can close your eyes or soften your gaze. I encourage you to take a deep breath in through the nose, allow your head to relax and maybe tilt forward a little bit, whatever helps you to tune into your body and kind of somatic awareness. And as you're breathing deeply, you can just do a simple body scan, and that's just moving your awareness, your attention around through the different parts of your body and just noticing any feelings or sensations that arise. I like to scan on the inhale from the soles of my feet to the top of my head, and on the exhale from the top of my head to the soles of my feet. And just notice, see if you can find any tension anywhere in your body. And I'll give us a few more moments, 'cause sometimes it takes a little bit to actually tune into what we're feeling. Just look for any area of tension in your body. And when you find it, I encourage you to just like place a hand there for now. I know I've got some right here in my shoulder. And you can open your eyes. Did everybody find tension, or is anybody just like completely relaxed, tension free? I envy you if so. Everyone's got some tension somewhere. Okay, cool. All right. So if you manage to find some tension, one way we can think about like this misalignment is like, what is that part of your body saying? If you were to give it a voice, it might be something like, I want to hold on. I want to clamp down. Right? I want to squeeze tightly. Might be what it would be saying. And if you're anything like me, you might want to let go, to relax, to release. And this is just a really simple example of where we can experience that misalignment with one part of ourself, literally our physical body, saying, I want to hold on, I want to clamp down, I want to tighten up. When another part of you is like, I really like to relax, I like to release, like to let go. And you could think of that as a disagreement between those two parts of yourself. And if you were to seek alignment, that alignment might look like, well, one side could go to, okay, fine, we're going to clamp down, we're going to tighten up. We'll just align on that. We're just gonna embrace the tension. Or the other side might be that part of you that's saying it wants to hold on, to clamp down, tighten up, saying, okay, I'm going to let go. And if you've ever had the experience of a tense area in your body releasing, letting go, has anybody ever had that experience? You feel that finally like something lets go a little bit? All right, I'm seeing some nods at that one too. Mirabai, I think I saw you nodding a little bit. Would you care to share? What does that feel like? What does that felt like for you?
Can you repeat the first part of the question, Colin?
Yeah, when you have a part where you've got that tension and you just want it to let go and then it does, you get that release. What does that feel like?
That feels like relief. It feels like support.
Mm,
It feels like agreement.
mm,
Hmm.
yeah, there's that keyword, agreement. So what we've just experienced there, and if you're able to, you can see if you can let go of that spot of tension in your body. If it'll let you, sometimes it just won't. And it's just gonna say, nope, um, we're gonna be misaligned today, but maybe you'll get that. And that's what alignment feels like, is when you get alignment, I feel that support typically, that internal support, that structure, that strength, the solidity, or Mirabai, as you really aptly put it, agreement. And when we feel that agreement, that's an internal sense of alignment. And so as we explore this a little bit today, I encourage you, if at any point it gets confusing or abstract, to just bring it back to that simple felt sense of when parts of yourself are in alignment, feeling that strength, that support, that agreement, alignment, that release. So that's my little exercise to kick it off today. And with that, I think I'd love to pass over to one of my other hosts, whoever would like to take it from here.
You need to pass the ball specifically. Where would you like it to go, Colin?
You spoke first, Patty. I pass it to you.
Well, thank you very much. So, one of the questions I have for you tonight is it possible to align with yourself if you're not aware? Part of Colin's experiment had to do with becoming aware of the tension and the feelings in the body. If you're not self-aware, what are your chances of aligning? So I would like to know, Brent, can I pick on you? We haven't heard from you tonight.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay. So how does self-awareness play into self-alignment?
Well, man, to start, you would have to start somewhere. So you would have to identify what's going on. What are the parts? If there's a misalignment, what are those pieces? To start somewhere.
So
And
what kinds of questions would you ask yourself to discover self-awareness?
well, one, I would, man, which questions? I think a bunch are coming up. Like, where am I? Present, like in the tense, like, where am I? What's going on? Like, what's the self situation, and other? What are those pieces? Um, what are the, like the inputs, with the others, the situation? What are those inputs to me? What are those outputs? Or what is my piece? Where where is the direction I want to go and where am I heading? So being able to identify where you're at and where you're wanting to go, so you can have that and um again, like what one with Colin was like, your head, the misalignment in your head, your thoughts logical, you're really feeling what's in your heart, where you really want to go. What are the two things? So and that's part of the situation, could part of the situation. What is the two pieces that could be pulling apart, or what are those two pieces you're working on, and you're split between, um, where is it on like that? I mean, well, how far? I mean, that's Iber again. That's still the same path. I was had a different question, but it was still this same arena. So, those are the questions I come up with right now.
Do those work for you? Do you use them?
Yes, I do. Yeah. Yep. Sometimes it takes a little longer to catch on, but to figure out what's happening. But when they do, then it's easy. It's quickly to identify those pieces. But that's the point of the mind models. Like, you can get sidetracked for a little while, but being able to use it, and you can quickly make that change, that adjustment.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you, Brent.
Mhm.
So, Tim, may I ask you a question?
Yeah, I actually have a great example. Well, go ahead with your question,
No,
Patty.
no, no. Go ahead. If you've got
I
an
was, I was
example,
gonna,
I'd love to hear it.
yeah, so what I experienced as Colin was walking us through that, you asked about self-awareness. I worked out at the gym, I upped my weights, pushed pretty hard yesterday, and I worked my upper body and more of my back yesterday. So today I'm dealing with a tight back, shoulders, those kinds of things. Mirabai has also been gracious with her work that she does with, body tightness and pain and those kinds of things. She's helped me notice some posture things that I might do to help, strengthen my back, those kinds of things. Today, with self-awareness, I've noticed that my back is really tight and I've been feeling it all day. And so when we first started the exercise, when I closed my eyes, first place I noticed was that tightness in my back and my shoulders. I've been feeling it all day, but it was like I was drawn to that spot right off the bat. And then as we started breathing deeply in and out, I noticed that that pressure or that tension moved from my shoulders up into my head and actually it was almost as if my head was expanding a little bit because I felt my hat get tight. And then as he mentioned, from the head to the toes, and as I released that felt sense of the pressure going to my toes, I noticed that suddenly the pressure left my head, left my shoulders, and I got almost a tingling in my feet. And so it was just interesting how on the inhale, I would feel the pressure in my shoulders. It moved to my head. On the exhale, I got this tingling from my toes, and my body just would relax at that moment. And as I continued to breathe in, breathe out, I noticed that I got more and more and more relaxed. So, just an interesting example of, the self-awareness, noticing that tightness in me today, and just that moment of calm and breathing brought the body into alignment, so to speak, and released all that tension. And I felt almost it wasn't a pressure in my toes, but it was a tingling, almost a kind of a tickling sensation. It was rather, I mean, not enjoyable, but it was different. So that's what I experienced through that exercise.
Interesting. Do you ever experience a lack of alignment between your present self, your future self? Do you ever feel any well, let me go back to this. What does it feel like, your present self and the future self that you want? What does that feel like?
It's interesting you mentioned that, Patty, because I find, as Colin was asking the head heart connection earlier,
Mm-hmm.
more often than not, that is the misalignment between head and heart. I have an idea of future self and, all the thoughts of where that can go, and then the alignment with where I'm at now in the present and what I feel. And that a lot of times will bring that pressure and that disconnect. And I often have to, that this is where the mind models have been amazing, is I can start asking myself those questions of, okay, but where am I now? What is working now? What's not working now? How might I get, to whatever thing that I'd like to see? And I can start bringing myself into that present moment and into that alignment piece so that then I can move forward, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. What we have here then is coming out with you and with Brent is how much of alignment is a questioning process.
Mm-hmm.
And the questioning process is also linked with self-awareness. Blair, would you like to kind of link up self-awareness and self-alignment?
Well, absolutely. Thank you. So one of the key things that I've found with self-awareness and self-alignment, if your self-awareness is off, your self-alignment will be likely off too, or not. It doesn't mesh well. It just sort of stuff happens and whatnot. You keep on looking for, well, you're caught in your why hole usually because you're not aware of how you're influencing yourself.
Mm.
And that's usually the problem. When you don't know that you don't know, I mean, you don't know. But you don't even know that you don't know. And so They say ignorance is bliss. It's ignorance is bliss until you come into interact with the real world. Like if ignorance is bliss when you're on your own, like when you've got nobody else to interact with. But it doesn't really pan out well for you for very long when you're interacting with other people in your life and they're not in alignment, or you can't see how you impact others. So if that's occurring, then if you're not interacting if you're not impacting others effectively, that misalignment um, becomes problematic, very problematic. So you don't emote to others with what you actually are going through, and you don't always take care of yourself in those moments. You tough it out. You do the thing. You say you're okay when you're really not. And you're sort of knowing that you don't feel okay, but you don't know what kind of not okay it is. So you say you're okay. And you just make it happen as best you can. So that is a misalignment between your self-awareness, where you are aware, but you're misaligned. And so and the other awareness that you may not have is, I know we're focusing on self-awareness, but if you are not self-aware, it's hard to be aware of others to a certain degree. Now, some people are hyper aware of everybody else and they ignore themselves. But most people, if they don't know how to be self-aware, their effective awareness of others and self-awareness is misaligned. So alignment is everything with this. So you got to get aligned, you got to get aware. And that comes down to an ANPU with awareness, notice, process, understanding. That's the acronym. The acronym is an ANPU. But an acronym, that those
Acronym.
letters, thank
Yes.
you, acronym, um, that whole thing does not necessarily give you what you need to get aligned with self on a consistent basis. You need to be able to become aware. So alignment is based on awareness. And
Thank you.
that's what I was trying to say all along. Long-winded way of saying alignment is based on awareness, and you need self-awareness to get self-alignment.
Okay.
I'd like
Becky,
to
would you like to
jump.
weigh in? I'm sorry, did someone say something?
Yeah, I
Colin.
was gonna say,
Oh,
Patty, I'd like to
Colin, go ahead.
jump in there on that connection of
Yeah.
awareness and alignment, and even what you said, Blair, about connecting to others as well. Like you can think that you're hyper aware of others, but really, if you're not aware of yourself, then usually your awareness of others is not really of them. It's really judgments, simulations, or
Yeah.
projections, guesses, assumptions. It's not really other people so much. But to the point about awareness and alignment, I think one of the major blockers to self-alignment is not wanting to be aware, not wanting to go there. I think especially like for me, for a long time, I was completely unaware of what was going on in my body. And you helped me with this. I did that feeling word dictionary like blew my mind and really changed my life.
Yeah.
For anyone who hasn't done this, I recommend it. Try to write down 200 positive, 200 negative feeling words just without looking at a dictionary or ChatGPT or other people, just like go from yourself. Anyway, for me, what that opened up was as I was doing that exercise, I would think of another word and I'd write it down excitedly, like, oh, good, I'm getting closer to my 200. Um, but what I noticed would happen is as I was writing down those words, I'd start to have these little flashes of something. It's like, huh, I'm feeling something as I write this word. It's like exuberance. I never say that word. I'm going to write that down. And then I just feel something. I'm like, huh, what is that? And this is the question of getting self-awareness, like the most basic question ever. What is that? That's the naming and labeling question. What is that? And when I started to ask that question, I started, well, like, I actually pay attention to it. And then I'd write down another word, like, I don't know, just anger. That was probably one of my first ones, but anger. I feel something. Well, what is that? Oh, I started to describing feelings. Oh, I felt like a little bit of heat. That's interesting. And I don't think I did it intentionally, but for such a long time, I had just closed off my access to my own body. And because I didn't have that awareness, I just thought it wasn't even there. I just didn't think I really had feelings. So, or they were just very, very neutral. Um, and to your point, Blair, about ignorance being bliss, I mean, to some degree, it's like it's kind of nice to not be in touch with all that stuff because you can just be in this numb, like you can avoid the highs and the lows, but you lose that depth, you lose that spectrum. So it's kind of like you get all of it, or you get none of it. It's kind of hard to just pick and choose the experiences
Well,
you have.
I want to argue with you a little bit on that. Not
That's
argue is
fine.
not.
If
I
you take
want
a lot
to.
of drugs, you can kind of get what you want for
Yeah,
a little while.
exactly. Not well, sort of. What you do wind up getting is a picture of whatever level of access you have to emotions.
Mhm.
And the more enabled you are, the more self-aware you are, the richer the range
Yeah,
is.
both directions.
Yeah. Now, one of the interesting things here is when you start applying mind models, you tend to level up. You don't tend to level down. And when you're leveling up, one of the things that I'm finding is that as you become the thing that you are probably more aware of when you're unaware of things is negatives. And so, you inferred that by when you said the thing that I was like starting out, and you said anger. That was probably one of the first. Well, that's not surprising to me at all. That's pretty normal
Yeah.
because normal people normally find all of their negative feelings at first. Well, actually, a small percentage of them, but they tend to be very large. And doing anger management back in the day at Life Skills, there's a lot of people that are very angry. And so you go through all the anger stuff, and gosh, they've got a great repertoire of skills and words to describe how angry they are, but a really small one for positive.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really out of balance. So when they start learning about positive feeling words, all of a sudden life gets better and they level up, they balance out, and they can move up so much more effectively.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big deal for people when they can finally feel good about themselves, as opposed to neutral or mad or bad or upset. So just stating what I've noticed.
Yeah, some of my experience with that and working with other people now on it too is like if you do open the door to your heart, it's like just be ready. Once you start to tap into this, it can be difficult to put the lid back on the box if you open up the floodgates. You never know what's going to come out of that box.
And to that point, I think that that's where mind models are super powerful because they give a finesse in a process to being able to tip into that. I remember for me, self-alignment, I never slowed down enough to figure out what was going on in the zoo. I was just getting stuff done. That was much more comfortable than slowing down and assessing. And so I put in the chat as you guys are talking about it, a lot of times it can feel risky or uncomfortable, more accurately, to identify or to ask the questions, am I in alignment with myself? What does that even mean? There's a lot of people who've never taken the time to ask that because they've just fallen into a routine and they're doing the things that need to be done for life. But it's a core piece. Like human beings influence at a high rate. And if we're not aware for ourselves first, I mean, are we driving a Ferrari with the brake on? In a lot of ways, I think that we are, because there's a lot of wasted energy that is, utilized in other places because we just don't know what we don't know. And that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong or bad about it. And when we're talking about naming and labeling emotions, I double down on what Colin said. If you haven't yet, take some time to explore feeling words without judgment. You're meant to feel them, they're important. And one of the things like asking questions, Blair, you're talking about, finding alignment, you got to get some descriptors in there to know if you're on the track or off the track. And
Absolutely.
it felt sense. It's not I mean, if you're behaving, throwing pots and pans, that's a pretty indicator that there's probably some like heated emotions on the inside. But you don't necessarily you're not always aware of how you're behaving to be able to identify if you're in alignment. It's a felt sense. And so, talking about what we did last week, names and labels, it's really important to explore that incrementally, right? You don't have to come out and be like all these things, but start noticing, as Colin mentioned earlier tonight, like, where are you feeling it? What does it feel like? What is that? Without any story attached to it. I think is one of the most powerful things when we're talking about, becoming more self-aware of yourself. That's a play on words, self-aware of yourself. What is your level of self-awareness in different situations? Do you find that you expand or shrink? What about when you're alone in a room by yourself? What is your self-awareness in that moment when there's not any stimulus from anyone or anything else?
Mhm. I and one other thought to go with this too. At some point, it occurred to me that fear is often a substitute for competence. And what I mean by that is if you're not competent in a certain area, fear is it can be very helpful. It can keep you safe, right? It's like, well, if I don't have skill at walking a tightrope, then my fear preventing me from walking that tightrope is probably doing me a service. Because if I go walk that tightrope, I might fall and I might hurt myself. And so for me, with tapping into feelings and being able to start to gain self-alignment, I think probably a big part of what kept me from even pursuing it before was that I didn't have the skills. And so part of me knew that. Like, hey, you don't want to go there. Like, don't tap into that heart space. Don't tap into what you're feeling because you have no idea what to do with those. And they will just overwhelm you. And I think that's a big part of what mind models really do is they start to give you the competence so you don't have to just live in fear. They give you the tools. So when you do open up that door a little bit, and if things come out there, you're like, okay, I'm ready for that. I can take that. I actually have a little bit of control over that gateway. So it's not just blasted open and I'm overwhelmed and then I'm just a mess for the next week. And then, you know, you
Yeah.
get more control, more levers, more ability to take things as they come piece by piece instead of just a big undifferentiated boulder running you over.
Hmm.
Well,
It's
I think we're at a place to move into the wrap up. I know that there are people who haven't had a chance to really share their reflections on this topic, but perhaps we can put that into the wrap up, Tim.
Sure. Yeah, so moving into the wrap up, for those of you who may be watching on YouTube who have not experienced a up before, what we do here on the Blair Dunkley Experience is part of making this experiential is to rate the experience tonight, not any individual person, but how you experienced the meeting tonight, what was shared, what came up for you. How would you rate that on a scale of 1 to 10, that experience that you had? And then also your sharing your biggest takeaway. And if you don't mind sharing that in the chat, we would love to come back and respond and see what your biggest takeaway was from tonight. And also, as Patty just mentioned, with not everyone being able to chime in tonight, maybe if you had a thought or something like that that came up for you during the discussion tonight, maybe share that during the wrap up. Like to start with.
Kim, I'm going to interrupt you. We
Sure.
have a new format, and I forgot the homework portion.
Patty,
Yes.
is it okay if we do that after wrap up and just remind
You want
people?
to do that with the outro?
I think so, because there might be some things, since everybody didn't get to have an opportunity to share, that might fall out that will help the homework make more sense.
Okay, thanks.
Is that
I
okay?
appreciate that. Totally. Just don't want to forget it.
Nope, I got it.
Okay. I'm glad you
Sorry
ladies
for
know.
interrupting, Tim.
Nope, no worries. Mirabai, would you like to start us off tonight with our wrap up?
Sure. I would say the big takeaway for me is that I think ignorance is a chosen smokescreen, because I think most people are not truly ignorant. I think that they just don't want to see. They're putting on blinders so that they don't have to deal with the consequence. So that was an interesting thought that I'm gonna kind of roll around in my cranium. And my number is an 8.
Awesome. Thank you, Mirabai. Yeah, that's definitely a noodler. I like that. Brent, would you like to participate in the wrap up tonight?
Yeah, thank you. Well, the takeaway was that the two are intertwined, and to have alignment, you must to have self-awareness to be able to have that alignment and be in alignment and asking questions, just the basic start asking questions, like Colin was like, what was that? Just to start to identify, and then you can, bring on the names and labels, and then, work on those description, the feeling, or is it, the feelings, what are those, to expand that so you can better identify those and describe those. And then you can become identifiable. And then if you want to repeat that, and then, you can do that, or you don't. So you have the two, you identify it, and then you're able to go from there. And then behaving, that's the thing, is to behave in the effective manner that you're wanting to get to. So, but being able to get to that point is to start with the questions, and that was my takeaway. So just to be aware, to start the awareness, the physical awareness, but like also then the mental awareness. Physical awareness for me is easier. I usually, it's easy. So you see it, if you want to look at it, you can identify it and then pay attention to it. Sometimes it's the mental side, for me, that was more difficult. So, but just asking those questions, what was that? And then for personally working on the expansion of the vocabulary for the feeling words, it's definitely helped with that, the self-awareness. So I give it a 9 for me.
Cool. Thank you, Brent.
Mhm.
Appreciate that. Mike, would you like to participate in the wrap up tonight?
I will skip the wrap up for tonight.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for being on, Mike. We definitely appreciate you showing up again.
Absolutely.
Cool. Leslie, would you like to participate in the wrap up?
Yes. Yes, thank you. I'm noodling a lot tonight. To quote our dear Shanna, that powerful word, noodling. I understand awareness and alignment, how tightly they are entwined. But yeah, it's just lots to ponder. Colin, sorry, your experiment did two things. I was thankful that I don't have a lot of energies tied in my shoulders, Tim, or going out my toes. It's but I think I realized I need a new chair. Because the only sensation I was feeling was this chair isn't comfortable anymore. But Sorry, that's what I felt. That's where it was happening.
Totally fair.
Yeah.
Out of alignment with your chair.
Or my chair is putting me out of alignment.
Hmm.
Both could be true.
Both. It's it's a 9 for me tonight, but I've got a lot to. I need to spend some more time thinking about this, and because I'm comfortable with it, I just think I can get more out of this. And
This might be one of those episodes that's worth going back and watching the replay and see what comes up
yes,
for you when you have a moment to kind of just breathe and be, as Colin walked us, kind of through that exercise, just taking that moment to just absorb
mhm.
and then going back with a fresh look or outside and rewatching the replay. It might be interesting to see what comes out of that as well.
Yeah.
And I
Oh,
actually think it's pretty cool that you shared the chair, Leslie. I was honestly, with that exercise, this what surprised me was that tightness suddenly in the around the brim of my hat. I was like, wow, where's my hat suddenly too tight? And I thought that was surprising as well. It's interesting how that energy and the things that we notice as we're going through stuff like that. So pretty cool
yeah.
stuff. So
Thank you.
thank you, Leslie. Shannon, would you like to participate in the wrap up?
Yes, sir. I loved all the questions tonight. There were so many really thought-provoking questions to think about. I um starting with something, the head and the heart pulling in different directions, starting it that way in a very strange way was like stirring the pot, because some of those things do show up in your body, and it was such a great way to feel that right away. Like I could immediately like sense and feel and be with that. So it was a great way to start that. And I love the body scan with the breath. That was really nice. And I actually felt like when I was done, because it's where I was feeling it, I started noticing I was sitting crooked and I needed to adjust. I was like, okay. And then after a while of putting my hand on the back of my head felt better when by the time we were done. And I loved that. There was some easing of that like throb and the pulse of the tension. So that was really fun to feel, and to go have a practical experience to go with the things that we're talking about was really enjoyable. I also loved the just what is that, and the fact that alignment is based on awareness. Awareness is something, as I took my little trip down memory lane through all my files, I had little notes and little descriptors of things. And part of what happened to me many years ago is I did have a brain infection that almost killed me. So finding my way back to myself was interesting. And I had several scratch pieces of paper with names and labels and words of just my writing out things that I know that I like, things that I know that I don't like, trying to like find out, am I still in there? And it was really satisfying to look back and realize, even though I didn't feel like I was with myself at the time, a lot of that stuff is the same. Like I've grown in terms of new interests and my lifestyle has changed and matured, but the core part of myself, like I'm still there. I'd never lost myself, even though at the time I felt like that. I just felt very ungrounded and I had lost a lot of my memories. And so it was an interesting experience you know, to just the simple question, what is that? And when you have someone hit you with a name and a label from the outside that's not in alignment, more often than not, you feel that in your body first. And then you can, over the years, I've learned through the mind models to actually be able to say, I'm going to check this out with a trusted person who knows me. Do you see this? Okay, I can develop my own opinion. I can ask for a second opinion, and then I can decide keep or flush on that thing that didn't work for me. And it's a really freeing sensation to be able to ask yourself questions and actually have that do something. Like, I feel like back in the day, the only question I ever asked myself, were why-based questions. And so talking to myself wasn't really that enjoyable, and it didn't go very many effective places. And so the fact that like almost everything I have a star next to tonight is a question. I'm like, oh, that's so interesting. Like the conversation in my own head is more enjoyable to participate in because of this system that we have to learn and that you created, Blair. So it's really, Becky, I love the one, do you feel you expand or shrink? That one was really fun to think about. And then adding in the layer of when you're with other people or when you're alone. That one was really cool too. So lots of really, and at the very end, Colin, the fear being a substitute for confidence, that one needs a noodle. That's really profound one as well. So it was a different sort of experience for my mind, and I enjoyed that tonight. So 8.5.
Awesome. Thank you, Shannon. I'll give my wrap real quick, and I can relate a lot to what you just shared. There's a lot to noodle on tonight. I also like Leslie. There's a lot of things, and I guess when I say go back and watch the replay, I'm speaking for myself as well, because there were so many key moments that I was like, yes, yes, and so much depth to tonight. And I think the biggest thing for me tonight, my biggest takeaway is back to the awareness piece. I felt that tension all day long, and I was aware that I was tight. I was aware that I worked out hard yesterday, but I didn't really take that just moment as Colin walked us through the exercise. And as the question was asked, what is that? And, exploring the name and label behind it. And, just that awareness piece and really taking just a brief moment to explore what is that? And how quickly, like, I'll be honest, my tension right now in my shoulders is I've been feeling it all day long, and I'm surprised that I'm not noticing it right now. It's not there. And just something as simple as what is that? Walking through a breathing exercise, starting to ask myself the questions, just how quickly that changed. And so, it's just that brief moment. And that ignorance is bliss piece that we talked about tonight. I just going about my day. I was toughing it out, not really paying attention to it, and just taking just a brief moment to really check in and get into alignment.
Can I point? Sorry, this is
Please.
now the third time when this came up, and it's all around awareness and energy. A few years ago, I took an energy course, like how to use energy and use your own energy on yourself. You can self-heal. Well, awareness is required. You've got to become aware of your stress. And one of the cool things that Colin did, either intentionally or not, was had us focus on those areas in your body and literally put your hand on it. Now, one of the things that the thing that I learned in the energy workshop was not only to point it out, but to point to that spot and just lightly touch it. You don't have to make a big deal out of it. Just point at it. And the guy said, give it love. But I tested this one because I test with things, and I go, I'm aware of you. Like I'm aware of the pain right there. I'm aware of the pain. I can feel you like talking to it as though it's something. And as I talked to it and brought it more into my awareness, it seemed to move in my body. And then I'd move it to another spot where it moved to. And I said, "Oh, so you moved there, did you?" And, they said, "Do it with a smile on your face, do it with love, and notice what happens." And the more that you notice what happens and you give a positive energy, and love is some of the most positive energy that you can give it, it just seems to vanish. And I've done this with clients afterwards, with some people that nothing else was really working. I did that, not a lot, like, 20, 30 people, but it always tends to work. So I'm sure that there's a percentage that it won't work with, but so far I'm batting 100. And when I remember to do that to myself, again, just focusing on it and doing that whole thing. And as you're sharing all of this stuff, Tim, I'm going, you know what? This is the same, giving the pain, the attention, giving the stress, giving that whole thing, and bringing that into a level of awareness changes it physically in your body.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, and a lot of times we just, we tough it out, we stuff it down, we don't want to. And the other thing, just to finish my wrap really quick, Colin mentioned, having the skills, a lot of what you were just talking through, Blair, having the mind models, having the skills to be able to work with that. Um, instead of just ignoring it and stuffing it. And Colin mentioned this as well, when you can have the mind models and you have the skills to be able to open up those feelings, those sensations, be aware of it and work with it, um, it really is freeing
Hmm.
when you can, notice that pressure, work with that pressure, and be able to move forward, know how to do that. So yeah, lots, and there was so much more that I can noodle on. It's a 9 for me personally tonight. With that, Colin, would you like to participate in the wrap up?
Sure thing. Yeah. One quick thing, Blair, you were mentioning the things moving and it working. Um, what I found with that is usually it usually will move around, you'll get a release, but sometimes it does get stuck, and no matter how many times you point at it and you send whatever, it will stay stuck. But usually if that happens, your body will tell you what to do. So in case you do this exercise, you'll usually be like, I have a sudden urge to scream or punch something or laugh or do a somersault, whatever. If you listen to your body, that's usually it's telling you what to do to get the next thing. Anyway, yeah, it's funny that this one was on awareness tonight because my awareness right now is very low. Like, I don't know if anyone could see this, but I'm like very tired, and I was literally having time skips during this call. Like, I looked at it, and it was like, oh, it's 9:30, and then I look at it 2 seconds later, it's 9:45. Okay, what happened? So apologies if I was skipping for anyone. I don't know if I was or not for you guys, but I was for me. My awareness is all over the place. Even with that, though, I had fun. Thanks for letting me facilitate a little bit of an exercise, and I'm glad that it had some effects for you. Um, and I had something else I was going to say, and it's gone now. So I'll leave it at that. 8.75.
Cool. Thank you, Colin. Becky, would you like to participate in the wrap up?
Of course. 9.13. So Shannon gave me the look. Not quite a quarter. This is a fun one, and full disclosure, life for me at one point was so much easier just to pretend that I wasn't an entity that needed any type of focus or attention. So much easier to just worry about situations and others and just do that. We're just going to do that. Um, and as we discussed, like when I started to tip into more of a self-awareness and alignment, my life became richer. There was more depth on both sides of the scale. And I can honestly say that in every instance, the risk was far worth the reward because you don't have the richness without the contrast. And when you start to see yourself, warts and all, you can make choices that you didn't know that you had. because again, we don't know what we don't know until we explore it. And so it was really fun tonight to chat about those things because curiosity, pure curiosity, not judgment, not the gavel, but like seeking. Colin did an excellent job of walking us through a exploratory curiosity filled exercise. Just what is it? What's going on? Didn't have to have a reason attached to it. There was no like need for the outcome other than like what's going on here. And the more that we can carve out time for ourselves to practice that, we'll start to see that it tips over into other areas and that you'll be able to expand that and be able to find that. I mean, there's always emotions, right? But we'll be able to call up and give attention to the ones that need to, appropriate to time and place, and be able to kind of manage the peaks and valleys at sometimes at a more effective keel. So again, appreciate the conversation, everybody leaning in and participating because we're human beings. There's always going to be something that's at odds, whether us with ourselves, others. And so as we can practice more of this self-alignment and alignment, understand how to do it, practice it, it'll make things a bit smoother even when they're a bit choppy. So that's for me.
Thank you. Miss Patty, would you like to participate in the wrap up?
Yes. The thing that stuck for me was the statement that Blair made early on, becoming aware of how you're influencing yourself. And we influence ourselves with our self-talk, and our self-talk can be full of those curiosity questions that Becky was talking about and that others have mentioned. But that influence on ourselves and choosing to be aware that really it's exercising the power of choice to, as Colin, I really liked what you put in the chat about the risk of opening your eyes is that you won't like what you see. The risk of not opening your eyes is you won't see anything. And so there is that tension, there is that risk. And I appreciate, Becky, you outlining that more clearly, but looking at, what do we do to influence ourselves and what direction do we want to influence ourselves in? And then using our power of choice, using our skills, and taking ourselves in an effective direction. So for me, it was a 9 tonight. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Patty. And Blair, would you like to wrap?
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff here. I like going through and creating the new format. And some of the stuff that I stumbled across was some words that describe the mind models. And one of the words was the uh, oh, sorry, I just blanked out. What is it with that thing that grows or gets smaller? It's Fibonacci numbers. No, it's not Fibonacci. Um, what was
Fractal.
fractal? Thank you. That was the word. Fractal. It's like a fractal equation because it can be incredibly simple or incredibly deep or anywhere in between. And yet it's all the same thing, but it's always different. It's it's like watching a tree grow. All the leaves are fractal patterns of every tree, and the growth of it is also fractal. And it's so simple. It's just a seed planted in the earth and the thing grows. But when you look at it, generally it can produce a fruit, a flower, whatever. It does all of these complex things, but yet it's so simple. And it's so complex all at the same time. And that's was tonight with self-awareness. It's so simple and it's so deep. Like, how aware do you want to get about yourself?
Yep.
Like, I didn't share my story about relationships, didn't need to, but I kept on reflecting back on how my life has changed so much and how relationships have impacted me and what makes that both effective and ineffective and complex and simple. And it's that juxtaposition between complex, complicated, and simple. And, you know, those are such strange contradictions, yet not contradictions at all. Anyway, for me, it's like 9.5 tonight. I really liked it. Thank you, Patty, for saving me when I lost my notes. I forgot who to hand it off to. I knew I was supposed to hand it off and I couldn't find my notes. And then you saved my ass yet again. Thank you. It's appreciated. And Colin, you did a wonderful job. So good job, including your time blackouts or whatever the hell it is. We gotta, I guess we gotta take you in and make sure you don't have any alcohol problems. No, I'm kidding, I'm kidding. Blackouts and whatnot, so time delays. Either that or just get you more sleep. So,
Past my bedtime.
yeah, that's true.
Thank you, Blair.
You're welcome.
For the homework, am I throwing the ball to you, honey?
Sure, I'll do it.
Or Patty? I wasn't sure who.
I'll do it.
Okay.
All right, you guys. So tonight again was a rich one. Homework we're gonna ask that you guys take home. Lots of noodling. I heard that from a lot of people need to noodle. So this is what we're gonna ask you to noodle on. Okay. Identify parts of yourself that are not currently aligned. Example would be friction, tension. Okay. Think about that. And then run the experiment. What might a conversation between these parts sound like? So if your head and your heart are not aligned and you're feeling tension around something, what might happen if those two pieces had a good old heart-to-heart felt conversation? I'll put this in the chat. So identify parts of yourself that are not currently aligned. You're feeling friction or tension. They're at odds. There's something just off. And run the experiment. What might a conversation between these parts look like? Okay. Because I mean, this one could go deep. Do what comes up for you, and then bring it next week so we can chat about it. Okay.
By the
Any
way, I do need to interrupt because Lynn McClurg jumped in on the internet and he gives his as an 8.5 rating tonight. So thank you so much, Lynn.
Thank you, Lynn.
Awesome. Appreciate you tuning in. All right, you guys. Any questions about homework before I do announcements? No? Okay. All right, you guys. Thanks for hanging out. Again, we prep quite a bit, but we like to follow where the conversation goes because the experience, the felt sense as you guys were participating with Colin leading in the beginning, that being able to notice, right? We're talking about being in alignment, self-awareness. Being able to notice is a very important thing. So slowing down a little bit to be able to notice. So the things that we didn't get to cover tonight are available for you in the BDE Insider Notes. Again, this is something that Blair's put together to help enhance your learning and your awareness of mind models so that you have something to refer to and pull out, read, and then notice how it applies in your world. So if you liked what you heard tonight and you want to go deeper, highly recommend that you get your hands on the BDE Insider Notes. Again, this goes from episode 318 to current. We're currently on 383, so that's a lot. The investment in yourself is $2,500 a month or $300 a year. You can go to
No,
Blair Dunkley.
$25, not 2,500.
Oh, did I say 2,500?
Yeah.
$25 a month. Sorry, let me respeak. $25 a month or $300 a year. You can go to blairdunkley.com/BDE Insider Notes. I'll just say this though. Even if it was the other big number, it would be far worth the investment because of what you get out of it. Yeah, slip of the tongue for me, you guys. All right. And then Blair also has a couple books on Amazon, Ultimate Mind Hacking and Phobia Freedom Formula. He's got another one that's coming out, so stay tuned. We'll give you details on when that's available. But go to Amazon.com and you can not Google, but you can Amazon Blair Dunkley or the name Ultimate Mind Hacking and Phobia Freedom Formula. Again, those give you insights on how mind models can work, slightly different focus, which is really cool because mind models literally can be applied to anything. They're identifiable, duplicatable, repeatable. They work in any and all situations. And so it's definitely something to invest in, to learn about so you can start to become more aware of what things are working and what things you might want to refine in your own life. If you'd like to join us next week, we're here every single Tuesday at 7 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. Mountain, 9 p.m. Eastern. You can go to rewiringthemind.com/weekly webinar, sign up, join us here. We'd love to have you participate live. That way you can participate, ask questions, get feedback in real time. And with that, you guys have a wonderful rest of your day or night, wherever you're tuning in from, and we'll catch you next week. Take care, guys. See ya.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Night, everyone.
But